Hi there, this is Tracy. It is very hard to find the humor in being with a narcissist. There's nothing funny about being abused. However, my next guest has done just that. She has found the humor in her narcissistic ex-husband, and she has learned, and she's a comedian that makes us laugh about narcissism. And her suggestion is that we all go and find humor. Go to a comedy club. Go tonight if you can. Go by yourself. Go with friends. Laughter is the best medicine. And we are going to welcome Merit Guest today to make us laugh and see the humor in the stupidity that we have all experienced.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, tough year. He was seeing a therapist. The therapist called him a classic narcissist. So he comes home one day, he goes, "Babe, she said I'm a classic." I'm like, that's the word you picked out of that sentence? Yeah, narcissists, man, they're tough. Oh, man. And he wasn't, the good kind. A lot of them are successful, they're rich, they're famous. And honestly, that just made me feel just a little bit like a failure. Because, you know what? If you're gonna marry a narcissist, I could have been the first lady. Oh, and it's funny. When you tell your friends that you're getting a divorce, not you guys, you look solid, you're good. But other people, when you tell them, they say, have you tried therapy? And I just look at them and I go, how did I miss that? God, I so wish I would have talked to you first. That's genius. Yes, we tried therapy. I even tried hormone replacement therapy. I go to the hormone doctor. She goes, "Hey, maybe you should wait. Wait to file for divorce. Maybe the hormones will just, you'll feel better." I said, "Doctor, I don't know what you think you have in that cream. But I'm pretty sure it's not going to make him less of a jerk."
So welcome, Merit. Thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure.
I am so excited to hear your story because we often think of narcissists and there's not that much that's funny about them. But you have turned your narcissist experience into something that makes us all laugh. So would you like to tell us about that a little?
Well, I'm just happy everyone can laugh through my pain. But I've been married to a narcissist for 16 years. I'm recently divorced. It's been 1 year since my freedom. But I think what was fascinating to me was I started studying comedy about 4 years ago. And I didn't realize how heavy my life had become, how much I lacked laughter and play, and I had completely lost my ability to see the light side of anything, because in a narcissistic household, I was just always wrong. It was always my fault. It was just never good enough. And so my life became very heavy. And I took a class with a stand-up comedian. And one of the first assignments was to just write about your life. And I didn't know what was happening at the time, but I just started journaling. And pretty soon, you're looking at these words on pages and you're thinking, oh my God, that's hilarious. How did I put up with that? And it just taught me to find the funny. So there's a lot, when you're writing about your frustrations and you're living with a narcissist, there's a lot to write about.
Yeah.
And then I just would look at it and go, oh, that's hysterical. How did I not see that? So
It's
that's what
really
happened.
important to find the laughter in this, and it's very unusual. So I'm so excited to we're going to play some of your jokes that you've done on stage, so people can see, because now you're doing this for a living, and
Yeah, I mean, I am a professional speaker, so most of my audiences on the business side are sales audiences, leadership. I talk about sales mindset. I'm a sales mindset expert, so I'm certified in emotional intelligence, and I've really used all of that training for my audiences. But what I found is that it really weaves its way into my comedy, and my comedy weaves its way into my professional speaking engagements, my keynotes, because really at the end of the day, we just have one life. It's a whole life. It's not like our business life and our personal life. And I think through the comedy, what I started to really understand was that um, there was more about who I am, and I learned more about myself through really understanding and studying his narcissism, and then layering on top of that the funny things about it. And then I can't help but have that benefit my audiences, no matter if it's a keynote stage or a comedy set. So it's just one life.
one life, and now it's narc free.
Woo! Yes, indeed, it sure is.
Yeah. So how did you told me a story about like your teacher looking at your progression of the humor, and
Mm.
did they say this is weird?
Yeah, when my very first comedy set was 2014, and the kind of comedy that my coach was working with me on is personal comedy. And so in that context, we had to write about things that were personal to us, and that was what was our set would be about. That. So there were several different themes throughout my first set, but my jokes originally about my marriage were, like, oh, my husband is so selfish. Ha ha ha. You know, I think my husband's great. He thinks so too. Ha ha ha. It's just like, you know, comedy, what makes it funny is that it is based in truth. And that's what we can all laugh at. And trust me when I say, the audience and a lot of people that know me know my ex-husband, and they were laughing because they know that that's the truth. But my my jokes were fairly safe at that time. And then probably a couple of years later, now mind you, I've been doing a lot of writing and really journaling on all these situations that were heavy in my real life. And then the next time I did a set, which was probably about 2 years later, as I took a little break, my jokes were just a little edgier, just a little meaner. By the time we got to 2016, somewhere around there, towards the end of that year, I was going over some of my jokes with my coach, and she goes, Merritt, you cannot do these jokes on stage. And I was like, what are you talking about? This is hilarious. She's like, you have crossed the line. These jokes are going to make your audience uncomfortable. Wow. And I don't think your marriage is going to work out. And I was like, what? Oh my God, who are you to tell me my marriage isn't going to work out? Like, what? And I am not kidding you, Tracy. Like 4 months later, I had that moment that you realize, wait a minute, my marriage is really not gonna work. Like, this is not happening. And I just sat there and I go, oh my God, my comedy coach called this. Like, of all the people in my life, my comedy coach.
Wow. So how much, like, give me an example of the dark side of the humor, because it started off with, he's so,
Oh gosh,
she's like, I wasn't prepared. Oh no.
You caught me on that one. I never did those jokes on stage, so
okay,
they're not coming to me quickly. But
that's right.
I can give you I'll give you a good example of a story, like something that I felt was very heavy, and then how I I saw the light in it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that can help viewers, you know, kind of look at their own lives and kind of go, oh, okay, I can do that too. So there's this one time, my ex's name was Dave. Can we say that? I don't know, Dave.
Oh, there's a lot of Daves. It could be mistaken. Don't worry.
Perfect. So I think there should be like a list, you know, like a registry, you know, like there's like sex offender registry. There should be a narcissist registry.
There is.
There is?
Yeah.
Oh.
But like most people are afraid to put them on there.
Ah, that's a great idea. Anyway, so there's this one time, he's coming back from a trip, and I had established a habit before he would come home from a trip to make sure the house was spotless, right? You can maybe relate to this, like, because you're really at that point, you're just trying to avoid any possible little thing that might trigger your narcissist. So a clean house was always a good thing. So I am frantic. I'm like running around. I'm cleaning everything. I'm sweeping, which I hate. And he comes home. Mind you, we also have cleaning people that help. So it's cleaned by cleaning people, and then I'm cleaning because it's never really good enough for him. So he walks in the door, and I had swept everything. And literally the first thing he says is, you know, he looks around, he's like, God, you know, geez, this place is a mess. And I'm like, what? So now at this point, the sarcastic comedian in me has come to life. So prior to that, studying comedy, I would have been like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'll do better next time. Like, ugh, I'm like embarrassed to say that I would do that. But now the sarcastic comedian comes to life, and so I get out the little sweeper, and I sweep whatever might be left on the floor, and then I show him in the dustpan, and I count them. 1, 2, 3. Like, are these the 8 grains of sand that are contributing to the mess that you are seeing right now? And he's like, all right, Merritt, you made your point, right? And he's ticked, but he's still, you know, I forget what that term is, right? They make it about you all the time. So that became the 8 grains of sand, you know, episode. But instead of looking at it like, oh my God, I didn't clean enough, I'm not good enough, and taking it all on me, I found ways through humor to make it be like, you're so ridiculous right now. Like, seriously, dude, look around. The house is perfect. You just came home. How about, hey, honey, you know, good to see you. So the more I started to seeing his issues, his narcissism through that lens, the more I was able to find ways for me to cope. And the more I found the funny, the less I was willing to put up with the nonsense.
Yay. That is so important. And I wish that more of us, I was actually doing like a little like meme search in Pinterest for humorous narcissist jokes. And there weren't that many. I'm like a professional meme maker. I literally have 2 million viewers to my narcissist board every month. And I'm like, I want funny ones. Nobody's got them. They're all so heavy. And that's, I mean, that is what most people want. They're looking for validation of their crazy. But the humor is.
Did you see the one that said, you know, when your ex tells you you'll never find anyone like him, tell him that's the point.
I didn't see that one, but it's a very good one.
Not my original joke, but it's out there.
It's out there, yeah. And that's all good. And that's, I love that you have turned this into something that I saw you about a year and a half ago, maybe at an event, and it was a comedy show. And I was in the audience with like friends who know what I was doing. And they're just like, look, she's got jokes about narcissists. And I'm just like, I have to mute her. And you were there with your dad. So I did come and say hi at the end.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you. It's nice to be connected here. I think, what you're doing is so important. I think I didn't, until I had a label from a therapist that called him a narcissist, I didn't know my experience was so common. I really had no language for it. When she said that he's a narcissist, then I started reading about it, and then it was like, oh my God. And I think that also helped me find the humor in the situation, because I started to discover that it wasn't about me. Like yeah, we all have our issues, right? I know that I had a codependent role in that. I've been working on myself, but I know that it really is his stuff.
Yeah.
And then it was, I think, also easier to find the humor because it wasn't so personal. I was able to remove myself from the situation and just kind of go, oh, all of them are like this.
You're not that special.
I'm really not that special. Or he's not that special.
He's not that special.
I'm pretty special. He's not that special. But, and then I started to learn one of the things I learned in a book was indifference is a narcissist kryptonite. And that really helped me sort through, how I was so instantly triggered in the past, and I've had years of being instantly triggered. It allowed me to just kind of go, okay, all that my being triggered is going to do is fuel the fire. Which was another reason why my comedy was such a blow to him. Like, he did not know how to process that at all.
Wow. Like
he wanted, I think like part of him wanted to laugh at it, but it was like, but I was so detached from what he was the reaction he was trying to get from me when I was looking for the humor on purpose, that it rattled him. And I just found that to be like
very empowering, right?
Totally empowering. Yeah, really empowering.
Anytime we learn the details of what they're doing, and whether conscious or unconscious, that can be debated. It's the same patterns. It's what they're doing to us to minimize. I had that same experience with my first husband. My son was like 2, and when a 2-year-old is like just all over the house and there's just shit of toys everywhere, and like, he would come home and he was like the traditional Italian man. I want a 3-course meal at 6 o'clock. It was like, I had to do that. And I worked a full-time job. So I've got the kid on the floor and here, play with the pots or the Tupperware, like, go for it. And I can make dinner while he's like throwing stuff. My husband would come home and literally, we had a cat, we had a purple chair, and every day before he even said hello to us, he would vacuum the purple chair with the cat hair, come in and just be like, now all this Tupperware has to be clean. How could you let him do that? And it was just like this, you try to make dinner with a 2-year-old that wants to run around, and it was absolutely like horrifying to me, but I didn't know that wasn't normal. I'm just sitting here. A kid should be able to play and have their little Tykes toys wherever they want. But here's this man coming in. When my son was 2, he taught him to clean windows. Here, spray, wipe. It was like the Karate Kid or something.
Oh my God! Wow. I hope you're saving for a lot of therapy.
I know. I was like, this is just not good. And God forbid if he ever like threw up, and like kids throw up and there's a mess. My husband would just be like, he could not handle, and it was definitely OCD-ish more than narcissism, but that control of, I don't want the toys here when I get home. Again, you like have a 2-year-old. This is,
Right.
He never made dinner without any assistance. I actually had a backpack that I kept him, like one with metal racks, like you would go hiking with, the kid goes in it, so that I could make dinner before he was 2. I would be like, this is the only way. And I'd have to keep bouncing. and he never understood that this is, you have to keep the kid busy in order to make dinner or clean the toilet or whatever.
Right.
There's things. So I think they all have the same patterns and control issues. And
yeah, we had our therapist called his issue. She said about him that he has unrelenting standards, and I thought that was a brilliant pairing of words, because that really opened my eyes to, there really, when you're interacting with somebody who has unrelenting standards, there really is no possibility of ever achieving nirvana, right? They're never, like 8 grains of sand. I mean, really,
yeah.
I could clean for days. I'm going to miss 8 grains of sand. So there was another one, the story about your son reminded me of this one. So how old was my son? Maybe 10. Comes down for breakfast in the morning. He's getting him, such a great kid, A student, lots of friends, great, just a good heart. I mean, great kid. Nothing wrong with this kid. Gets himself ready in the morning at 10 years old, comes downstairs for breakfast, pours himself his cereal, gets his milk. I mean, awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm, bounced down like, good morning, and how's my favorite boy, and you're so great, and we're just having this great morning. And then X comes down and he goes, you shouldn't have poured that much milk. Like, you're wasting milk. I'm like, okay, all right, wait. Our kid is 10. He's an amazing kid. He got himself breakfast and ready for school, and that's what you're focusing on? Are you kidding me right now? So I know at this point, like, my main goal, right? Because mothers, we're thinking in 12 different directions. I'm like, send your kid off to school in a positive, upbeat mood. Don't engage in this right now. Deal with this later. So I'm like, hey, I won't say my son's name, but hey, buddy, I'll clean up your cereal this morning. Let's just get you off to school. So I take him to school, and then when I come back, I literally pour the milk that's still in the bowl into a measuring cup.
Oh my gosh.
Tracy, it was a quarter of a cup of milk.
Wow.
And I go, is this what you are so worked up again? Like, this is being wasteful, and, this was worth putting him in a bad mood and completely ignoring that he was self-sufficient at 10 to get himself ready in the morning. And he's like, yeah, I feel about conservation. It's an important value to me. And, we have to teach him about conservation. And here's how I know that I completely lost my mind. I'm so embarrassed to say this on camera. It started to make sense to me. Do you know how when they twist it so much that you completely lose your perspective, and all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, he's right. Conservation is important. We should teach that to our son. Okay. Yeah, I was wrong. And then it was months later, I was relating that story to the therapist, and she goes, Merit, you're not crazy. He didn't wake up and decide, let's teach our son about our values of conservation. No, that was unrelenting standards, and he was just looking for something to get that trigger going, because that's his juice, that's life to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I've completely lost perspective. I lost my ability to assert my own ideas, my own opinions, to look at him and go, nope, no pass. That was not about conservation. You are way out of line on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I started to notice, like, oh my God, I must have 12 of those situations in a day, every day.
Wow.
And for all that time, I'd been making myself the bad guy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he made you the bad guy. You accepted being the bad guy.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. But we know in ourselves that a 10-year-old making his breakfast is a really good thing. You know,
Yeah.
keeping a kid happy on the floor while you're making a 3-course meal is good. If it takes Tupperware, what the hell? You know, I'd even give him the spoons and then put it on my husband's side, you know, like, here's your place setting. You wouldn't know. And I'd be like, nah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you ever see Sleeping with the Enemy?
I did a long time ago, right? That was
it was like in maybe the 80s or something. It was like Julia Roberts, like first movies. But someone recently told me to watch it again. And you should watch it again, because I looked at it and I grabbed a pad and I started writing. Like, I pause and go, holy shit, he just gaslighted her. Oh my God, the towels aren't lined up. The cans aren't lined up in the shelf, and he's complaining. And before like the first 10 minutes, I had like 10 pages of notes going, I never saw this when I saw it way back then, because then it was just a scary movie. Now that I know the behaviors and the control of the whole thing, I was like looking at it with a completely different lens. So
I had that experience with a book. It was called The Wizard of Oz and Other Narcissists.
Love that book.
Oh my God. I just called it A Day in the Life of Dave. So, but I read that. I must have read that 7 times and highlighted and it would just go back, and like every time something would happen, I stopped seeing it like, oh, that's Dave and Merritt. I started seeing that like, oh, that's just Dave the narcissist. And then, so it was some combination of learning and understanding that this was a real thing, that these were patterns that were easily recognized, that opened the door for, okay, it's hilarious that he does this. And I think those two things in concert, you know, like educating myself and then looking at the situation for what it really was and studying comedy, just was like,
it's free.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I mean, now I just see the funny everywhere. Do I have time for one more quick story?
Absolutely.
So this was, you'll like this one just because it was that wake up moment, you know, when you realize you don't have to keep doing things the way that you've been doing them, because how I was even parenting my son with my narcissist, you know, influence around it, that wasn't authentic to me either. So it was about a month or so after my ex had moved out. I was on a business trip. It was one of those, like, everything was cranking, like business was great. I got upgraded on the flight. There was this beautiful sunset out my window. I mean, it was like, bam, like everything was going great. And I, you know, because that's when you post on Facebook, I started making my little post like, oh, my life is so great. I'm so happy and da-da-da. And really happy to be going home to my amazing son. And as soon as I land, of course, the post goes out. I pick up my son. We go home. I've been gone for a few days. I'm anxious to just get inside. We pull into the garage, and his favorite song comes on the radio. And he goes, Mom, can we listen to the song? And I'm like, dude, I'm just tired. Let's just go in. I turn off the car. By the time I go to the back to the trunk to get my bag, he has jammed a paperclip into the ignition, and I hear, uh-oh. And I'm like, what just happened? So now, mind you, 16 years of automatic conditioned response patterns, like ingrained in me. I do what any narcissist would do, which is yell like crazy, like my son was purposely trying to break my car. What did you do? Oh my God, you have no respect for property. Like, it was like channeling my ex.
Wow.
Well, my son immediately, he starts crying. His first words are, "Please don't tell daddy." And I'm like, "Daddy doesn't live here anymore. We can do this however we want." But it was as I was saying that, I just bust out laughing. Well, now he is completely confused. Like, what just happened? I hand him my phone. I go, "Read what I just posted on Facebook." And he's like, da 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 da. He goes, "My amazing son," and we both start laughing. I said, "Dude, I'm sorry I yelled at you. That's just kind of ingrained in me at the moment. But you didn't break the car. This isn't the end of the world. We'll get it fixed. This is no big deal. I don't have to parent like that anymore." It was like this switch got flipped, and I got to be who I am. I hope that other people watching this will find those pockets of time where their true self shines back through, and they can be their authentic selves, whether that's parenting or just for themselves or whatever it is. But we ended up calling AAA. They took the paperclip out of the ignition. I kept the paperclip. And this is where, again, just from the comedy brain, I had it mounted, framed, and my caption was, "Judgment coming soon to a teenager near you."
Oh.
And now we, affectionately call it the paperclip incident. Every time I hear that song on the radio, he goes, "Mom, you know what song this is?" And I'm like, "This is the paperclip song." But it's this joke, but it reminds me, and I put it in my kitchen where I see it every day, and it reminds me that I get to make choices, that I get to be who I am, that I don't have to parent the way that he did. I don't have to live that way anymore. And that can give my son and I a lot of freedom and a lot of joy, and we can find the humor in things that would have triggered him. I mean, my kid would have been grounded for a month on that deal.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have seen the light of day. What was the point of that? It took 30 minutes, didn't cost any money, and it was hilarious.
Right. Yeah.
And
that empowering kind of moment when you start to see the real you, and sometimes you see, like you were saying, that mirroring of your reaction the way it would have been, and it takes untraining. It really takes our brain time to go, that's him. That's that little voice in the back of my head saying I have to act this way. One of the things that my second ex-husband, the true narcissist, his family was very wealthy, and they made us dress a certain way. Like, literally, when I married him, they threw away all my clothes and bought all new clothes. And to me, they were like pimping it out, like, "Oh, you're a princess. You're a princess. We're going to buy you Prada shoes, and you're going to look the way we look," And at the time, I was like, "Wow, I'm a princess," And the control of everything that was in our life, from my son going on a trip and having to wear dress pants and black shiny shoes in the summer in Argentina when the rest of the world was in shorts, and the control of like, "No, we can wear what we want. Yay!" And we can go to the thrift store and find cool stuff. We don't have to go to Barney's and have this mentality that we're better than other people. So when you start to see the patterns that were kind of drilled into you, and you start to break and go, oh, that's that. And you do what you just said. You go, "Oh," and you take a step back. It's so freeing because you can just throw it away.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could totally relate to that. I just, well, I didn't get a new wardrobe out of it. That would have been maybe nice, but, but just, yeah, I mean, I think for me, that defining moment when I noticed that this isn't normal, like this isn't how it goes. We actually went out for a family fun night that my son wanted to do. There was it was an NBA game. The Chicago Bulls were playing the Denver Nuggets, and we're originally from Chicago, so I got us really good tickets to the game. Well, Narcissist got a bug up his butt with some little trigger on the way there, so he was already in a bad mood. And then we got there 10 minutes before they opened the door, and he didn't want to wait. So then he was, like, the bad mood just kept compounding over little things that any normal person would have not even recognized as anything. Mm-hmm. Cut to the, long and the short of it is, we're literally sitting in the Pepsi Center with 15,000 other people, every one of them having a great time, like laughing. It's an NBA game. Who doesn't have fun at an NBA game? The three of us. So we're sitting all there, not talking, because Narcissist has made it so uncomfortable for my son and I. And I'm literally looking around, and it's like one of those moments where it's like everything's in slow motion, or it's like a movie where like the whole stadium is sort of grayed out and the spotlight is just on the three of us, and we're like sitting there and we're like amplified, and everyone's looking at us like, why aren't they having fun? Aren't we at the NBA game? And it was just like, oh. And driving home, I'm thinking, wait a minute. I literally saw 15,000 people having fun, and we were the oddballs. That's not how I want to live my life.
No.
And the next morning I called attorneys. I mean, it was like, bam.
Wow. Yeah.
But, it's just like when you have that moment of, wait, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Especially when it's something so big that's a special thing. You want that memory for your son to be like, remember when we went to the game? It was so cool. And now it's like, you just sit there and everyone's unhappy. Ugh.
Yeah. But I remember journaling about that because I was, still in the habit of journaling, and I had a narcissist journal, like the special journal that I would use for all of those incidents. And just writing in there was really therapeutic for me. And then it would help me realize, what's funny about this sometimes is not so much what happened, but how I changed over those 18 years I knew him, so that was an acceptable sea that I swam in. Mm-hmm. And at some point, that part didn't become funny anymore. Like, it's not funny anymore that I'm allowing this.
Right.
And then
it's all history now.
I know. Now there's a lot of humor in dating. So now it's all about how do you figure out that someone's a narcissist in the shortest amount of time? Like, my antenna is up. And so when I'm dating, I went out, I think it was might have been my very first date after being single. And I said to, he asked me, well, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I'm a professional speaker. And he goes, you mean like a motivational speaker? I go, yeah, I would imagine that some people would consider me motivating. He goes, oh, I don't need any motivating. My team needs motivating. I'm self-motivated. And I was like, oh, look at the time. Like, really? Are you kidding me? We're on a first date and you are dissing what I do for a living, telling me you're above that? I don't have time for that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so my antenna is way up.
I think it has to be. I think, I think you're a lot younger than I am, but in my age group, like most people are married now twice, divorced now twice. And the people that are in the dating pool are cray cray. And that's why I don't want to go in there. I'm just
Well,
like,
you know what you do, Tracy? Date younger.
I married younger. It didn't work out so well. I married rich. I kept saying that didn't work out so well either, but I'm not disclosing that one. That's okay.
So now you want an old poor guy? I don't know.
No. I think I'll just like stay over here, teach people about narcissists, and one day we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
It's a plan. I got to stick with it. Right now, it's learn about me and codependency and all of the things that made me vulnerable. And I just keep learning and peeling that onion. And the more I learn, the more I teach. So, one day I'll be like that scholar that has like 15 degrees. I'll be like, I've earned all of these fake narcissist degrees.
Well, I think what you're doing is amazing and really generous of you to share your experiences and bring people together like this. Your website is amazing. I mean, I really wish I had had this available to me earlier in my life. I mean, I probably stayed in that relationship easily a decade longer than I wished I would have now looking back. It is what it is, and we all do things at the right timing for ourselves. And, I believe people and situations and things come into our lives for a reason. They're here to teach us. And, we get the lessons when we're ready to receive them. That's just my own personal philosophy. So, for whatever it was worth, I wasn't ready 10 years ago to make those changes the way that I was more recently. And I really do, kind of circling back to comedy, I really do think that that was an integral part of preparing me mentally to break free of such a restricting relationship and find my happiness again, find who I am, get back to my center.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just forever grateful for, finding that comedy. And I hope whoever's watching this, just, you don't have to study stand-up comedy for this to happen, but get some comedy in your life. Go to see a show, listen to comedy, especially instead of feeling heavy or, don't go with your narcissist because they'll make it about them, but go get a friend, spend time with other people outside of that narcissistic relationship, and be deliberate about getting some comedy in your life. And when you're even around, and I think stand-up comedy is such a great tool for this, because really stand-up comics are about saying what other people can't say. They're about finding funny in difficult situations.
Right.
And when you can find a comedian that can make you laugh at something that might have made you cry, or, it just shifts your perspective just a little. Oh God, it's like the best therapy in the world. So not that that's taking away actual therapy. I think both of them are very important, but God, it's just, I don't know how I would have gotten through those last difficult years and a weird, icky divorce without it. So.
Well, I am so grateful for you to take this time on this Saturday morning, and I'm going to play some of your clips on this and show people, and let's get them laughing. And thank you so much for being my guest today.
My honor. Thank you, Tracy. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.